What's up? I'm Royce, and welcome to my channel where I talk about all things film and tech related. And today I'm going to be talking about this guy right here. This is the PicoDrive from PicoLabs, and they're touting it is the world's smallest EDC USB4 Thunderbolt 4 portable SSD. PicoLabs was kind enough to send me one to try out, and before I really get into anything, I'm just going to say I love this thing. This is literally pretty much everything I've been looking for. A super small, compact SSD that's also really fast. Now they're saying the PicoDrive specifically can get up to 4 gigabytes a second of read speeds and 3.6 gigabytes a second of write speeds. Flipping that over for us content creators, that means that can get about 4,000 megabytes a second of read speeds and 3,600 megabytes a second of write speeds. And really all that means is this guy can handle all those super high resolution files that you guys are editing for your dope content without a problem. Now, at the time of this recording, this drive is not out yet. PicoLabs will be launching a Kickstarter campaign that starts March 4th to help fund production. And I'll leave a link in my description so you guys can check out the campaign for yourself. Now, let's talk about the whole design of this, right? They're really pushing how tiny it is. And even on their Kickstarter page, they have a picture of the PicoDrive next to a quarter. So, of course, I had to do the same thing just so you can see how small it really is. But it's the fact that it's this small and it's Thunderbolt 4. You just really don't see that, right? So, for example, here's my Crucial X10 Pro, also really small SSD. Put them next to each other. I mean, they're pretty much the same height. You know, it's a little bit wider, but thickness is about the same, so there's not that big of a difference there. But this is a USB 3.2 Gen 2 times 2 SSD. You're not gonna get the speeds of Thunderbolt 4 and USB 4 in this size. And if you're on a Mac, I did a whole video on why you're not even getting the full potential of drives like these and their speed. So definitely check that out if you haven't yet. It's pretty important for Mac users to know. And if we look at other small drives, right? Like this one is actually, this is an SSD enclosure by Genki. It's actually really cool. It's got a really nice design. It's got MagSafe, but again, 3.2 Gen 2 times 2, and it's an enclosure, so you still need to get an NVMe SSD as well. Same with this guy right here. This is Satechi's SSD enclosure. Same thing, you need an NVMe drive, and it's still limited in speed to that USB 3.2 Gen 2. Because even on the Thunderbolt end of things, take the Sabrin Thunderbolt 3 drive right here. This is great. I love this drive as well, but obviously you could see that difference, right? And I mean, speed-wise, Thunderbolt 3 and 4 get the same 40 gigabits a second speeds, but Thunderbolt 4 is more reliable in maintaining those speeds. So you still get an advantage going Thunderbolt 4 versus Thunderbolt 3. And it's pretty much going to be the same with a lot of the offerings out there right now. So this is why I believe the PicoDrive is really in a league of its own as of right now. The PicoDrive weighs just 29.9 grams. It's super thin at 7.7 millimeters, which they say is thinner than an iPhone 16. The body is made from aircraft grade aluminum, which makes it very durable and look pretty cool. I like how they added these cool little grooves to it, right? They could have just done a blank flat SSD case here, but they really punched it up by adding that kind of unique design to it. And what's cool is it comes with this cool USB 4 keychain, then you hook to the side of the PicoDrive. That is the actual cable. Because of the size, if you don't feel comfortable just tossing it in your bag, there's that extra security to hook it onto something. And just to get a little bit nerdy for a second, the reason they're able to pack so much speed in this small form factor is because it's utilizing Physon's latest USB 4 controller. And that's what it allows it to not rely on an external NVMe SSD, but for it to actually be the SSD itself. Okay, enough of the specs. Let's actually plug this in and let's see what we're working with here. I'm plugging this into my Mac Mini M4. And I'm gonna open up Blackmagic Disk Speed Test. If you're unfamiliar with this app, this is really great. You should definitely download this. This is the app that lets you test the speeds of your drives and to see what you're actually getting. Hard drive manufacturers are always going to tell you speeds that are usually the peak performance that their drives are capable of, which is great, but a lot of variables can come into what your experience is actually going to be. So it's good just to plug it in yourself, see the speeds that you're going to get on your machine so you know what you're working with. So I'm going to go here and select my PicoDrive, which I've been using as my main editing drive in DaVinci, and I'm going to hit start. All right. So it looks like I'm getting a little over 2,900 megabytes a second of write speeds, 2,882 megabytes a second of read speeds. And now if you're looking at these numbers, like, all right, cool, that seems like a lot, that seems fast, but what does that actually mean? That's why I love this section right over here. Will it work? It actually breaks down what these speeds will equate to as far as footage and what you can expect to be editable on your drive. If we go all the way down here, Blackmagic RAW, 12K, 60, green check marks, we're good to go. I mean, it's check marks all across the board. So whatever you throw at it, Blackmagic RAW, ProRes, H.265, we're pretty much good to go. And now I've moved the PicoDrive over to a Mac Mini M4 Pro, and we can see the speeds are a little bit faster here. We're getting 32 to 3,300 megabytes a second of write speeds and hovering around 2,900, almost 3,000 megabytes a second of read speeds. So the speeds of the drive will vary depending on the computer that you're working with. And if you take a look on their campaign page, they've given a bunch of different examples of speed tests on different devices, so you can kind of see how the speeds can vary. Now, I'm going to plug in my Crucial X10 Pro and we can see those speeds and compare. Now I'm going to navigate to my X10 Pro, hit open, hit start. Huge difference. 900 megabytes a second write speeds, 926 megabytes a second read speeds. So here's the thing here that I want to highlight. This is not a fully fair comparison doing this test with this drive on a Mac because, like I said, Macs don't support USB 3.2 Gen 2 drives like the X10 Pro. It actually reverts it back down to what's referred to as USB 3.2 Gen 1 now, at least. It used to be USB 3.1, but that's actually what Macs and Apple has still labeled that generation of USB speeds at is USB 3.1. So if you go into system information here, and I can even show you, I have system information opened up. If I go down to USB right here, I see USB 3.1 bus. This is our X10 Pro drive. It is being read as USB 3.1, which that has been phased out. It's now known as USB 3.2 Gen 1, but for whatever reason, Apple still calls it USB 3.1. I know it's confusing. All you need to know is you're not getting the full speeds if you're using drives that say USB 3.2 Gen 2, because they don't support them. But the thing is, even if Macs did support USB 3.2 Gen 2, you're still only going to get a max speed of around 2,000 megabytes a second, which means in the real world, you're really only going to get about 1,300 to 1,500 megabytes a second, which is still significantly slower than a USB4 or a Thunderbolt 4 SSD like the PicoDrive. And actually, since we're in system information, let me plug back in my PicoDrive. We can go under Thunderbolt USB4, and then we see it right here. And that vendor name, Phison, because that is the controller that's being used by the PicoDrive. So we know that the PicoDrive is being read as a Thunderbolt USB4 SSD. So this is just a quick tip I would recommend you guys start implementing if you're not already, just to make sure you're not getting a faulty drive or if a company's just straight up lying to you. Now let's talk about actual use cases. I use this for editing. The end. No, but, well, yes, but I also use it with my iPhone 15 Pro Max to shoot Apple Log. And yes, you're not going to get Thunderbolt 4 speeds from your phone because it doesn't support that. But, I mean, look at this. So this is a little USB-C adapter right here. You know, the ones that kind of like curve out to a U shape. So it allows you to hook up your SSD in the back like this. And now I have this cool little sleek setup to shoot Apple Log. Even though the phone can't support Thunderbolt 4, what's nice is I can just unplug this from the phone, plug it into my computer, and just start editing right from there. Or say you're somebody who edits on the go and you don't use a laptop, but you do use an iPad Pro. This is the iPad Pro M4, the 13-inch model. That's why it looks like a behemoth. But I have DaVinci Resolve open. Now, the iPad Pro does support Thunderbolt 3, so that means we can tap into the fast speeds of the PicoDrive. And with its small form factor again, we can do that same setup with the adapter. Plug this in, and this is with the Magic Keyboard right here, right? Look at this setup. So now I just have the drive hanging off the back here. I got my keyboard. I can be working like this. I don't have to worry about other cables like dangling off to the side or a hard drive sticking out far to the side like that. This kind of just hugs to the back and it's just, it looks so nice. It's literally, it's so small, but you're getting those faster speeds. Guys, this is awesome. I used to dream about times like this, editing 8K footage on my iPad in DaVinci Resolve for the iPad with a super small Thunderbolt compatible SSD. I just need y'all to see the vision. All right, well, how do you know that the iPad's actually taking advantage of those faster speeds? Because we do know that Apple tends to hold back the iPad a lot when it comes to performance, even though they pack it with such a powerful chip like the M4 chip, there's actually a way to test to actually see what those speeds are looking like. It's called disk test by Magic Benchmark. I've had to do like 10 takes of that. Whew. So if we open it up, you can also test the internal speed of your iPad, which is really cool. Now let's go over to our PicoDrive. There we go. Now we can at least see through this app, we're not getting the faster speeds that we saw on our desktop, but we are getting up to 2,000, almost 2,100 megabytes a second of write speeds and 1,500 megabytes a second of read speeds, which is still really fast, especially when you're taking into account your editing footage on your iPad. All that to just say, this could be you guys. You know this is awesome. PicoDrive is also a great option for people who record to external SSDs from their film cameras, because given its size, you can mount it. It's not going to take up a lot of weight. It's not going to take up a lot of space, especially if you're recording, from a DSLR, which are usually more compact anyways than other traditional cinema cameras. Or if you're shooting from like a Blackmagic Pocket camera, this could be a cool solution as well to use in your rig. And from my experience of using it in different situations, editing on my computer, my iPad, shooting on my iPhone, this thing has not overheated once. If anything, it's gotten a little warm, and I've pushed this thing. I've been editing 8K red raw footage on this, and it doesn't overheat, which obviously that was my first and main concern, and probably a concern for a lot of you guys with a drive this small. They found a way to make this work. Now let's talk about price. The PicoDrive is going to retail starting at $259 for 1 terabyte, and this can go up to 4 terabytes. But if you're one of the first 100 backers of the campaign, you can get the early bird price of just $149. But even if you somehow manage to miss that, just being a Kickstarter backer in general, you're going to get the PicoDrive for $179, which both prices significantly better than the $259. So you might want to think fast on this one. So if you're a filmmaker, editor, content creator, whatever, if you work with video files and you need to edit them and then export them to showcase to people's faces, I would highly recommend getting the PicoDrive for the form factor, for the USB4 Thunderbolt 4 speeds, for how it doesn't overheat, which is amazing. I still really don't understand that. And just, for the simplicity, the design, it looks cool. For the early bird pricing, like literally, this is the drive I've been looking for, and I think you've been looking for it too. And if that's the case, go ahead and hit that link, check out the campaign for yourself. And that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful. If so, please like and subscribe to the channel. It really means a lot. And yeah, until next time, I'll catch y'all later.